Please enable the audio. The online users do not have the audio.
Verify other people. Okay, I think if we can start, we do have some people online, so maybe I can just check with Asaf. Asaf, can you hear us?
We hear you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Pachuma Mtlego, the current chair of the JSE. I'm joined on this podium by several board members. On my right is Dr. Suresh Khanna, our lead independent director, who's retiring today at this AGM after 9 sterling years and huge contribution. Thank you, Suresh. I know we'll say a little bit more a little bit later. Thank you. On my left, our Group CA, Dr. Leila Fourie. And on my far left is Mr. Ben Kruger. He's the chairman of the JSE's Group Investment Committee and will soon assume the responsibility to replace Suresh as our senior independent director following the AGM. My right-hand man, as it were. I don't know why he's sitting on the left. You should be on the far right. We also have other board members that are present. Zarina Bassa, they're sitting on the table on my left. Ms. Faith Kanyile, Mr. Tabo Leo, Mr. Ian Kirk, Ms. Fausia, and who's our CFO of the group. And then on the link, they should have joined us as well. We have Siobhan Cleary and Mr. Vendry Brewer. And they're all joining us by Zoom. We have several guests joining us today from the media, and welcome to you all. I think some are online. This is our 20th annual general meeting of shareholders of the JSE, and the third AGM that I have had the privilege and honor to chair since my appointment in 2022. Our agenda for the AGM is reflected on the screen, or should be reflected now. And I trust, that all the online participants can view the agenda. You can also access a copy of this agenda as well as the AGM notice and the reports that were tabled at this meeting on the JSE Group website. The AGM is currently being conducted in English and held in person here at the JSE offices in Johannesburg. It is also streamed live to shareholders to enable the widest possible participation by our shareholders. This electronic participation is permitted by the Companies Act 2008, the JSE listings requirements, and the JSE's Memorandum of Incorporation. Throughout this meeting, relevant information will be presented on the screen. The quorum requirements for this meeting are prescribed by our Memorandum of Incorporation and the Companies Act that stipulates, firstly, that at least 3 members entitled to vote must be present in person or represented either by proxy or a letter of representation. And secondly, that at least 25% of the shares that are in issue must be represented. Our scrutiner has confirmed that a quorum of shareholders is indeed present or represented at this meeting, and accordingly, I declare the annual general meeting properly constituted. An important element of any AGM is the interaction with shareholders, and we strongly encourage that. We provide opportunity for this engagement under item 3 of the agenda. I'll call on our Group CEO, Leila Fourie, to present some brief remarks on our business and strategy. Thereafter, we'll then open for any questions from shareholders and from our guests in the audience. You may have questions relating to our business and strategy or our reports on the 2024 year, and of course, or on the AGM resolutions. We welcome all the questions and look forward to the engagements a little later in the meeting. Voting on the AGM resolutions will take place under item 4 of the agenda once we've concluded the Q&A question. So going on to agenda item 1. Briefly, I would represent it as an annual meeting of shareholders provides an opportunity to reflect on progress made and to look forward to the future strategies and initiatives planned by the board and executive management. Although this is the 20th AGM of the JSE as an incorporated company, the roots and history of the JSE stretch back 137 years. As a member-owned organization in the 1800s and 1900s, those annual general meetings took a somewhat different format. Despite the sophisticated meeting technology, today's AGM still has a resonance with the past and is another milestone in the JSE's long history. In my remarks at the 2024 AGM, I referenced the strained macroeconomic climate in South Africa, as well as the difficult and transformational environment facing exchanges locally and globally. Much has transpired since then. South Africans exercised their democratic rights in an open, well-contested and organized national election in May 2024. Markets reacted well to the outcome of that election, as well as the formation of a government of national unity. After a slow start to 2024, equity market activity started to recover in Q2, buoyed by the formation of the GNU. And we saw that result in more positive investor sentiment and reduced uncertainty around geopolitical outcomes. The value traded recovered from being minus 25 in Q1 2024 to a positive 1.14% by the end of the year. Quite a dramatic turnaround. This trend has continued into 2025, with value traded up more than 30% year to date. Looking forward, the GNU stability and speed of policy reform to deliver on South Africa's medium-term growth will impact investor sentiment and weightings in global industries. I hope the powers that be are listening to that. South Africa's 2025 growth is forecast at 1.6%. I think that was IMF, while government has set itself a demanding 3% growth target. However, this growth rate is still too low to make a meaningful difference to inequality and to lift many South Africans out of poverty. Once again, I hope powers that be are listening to that. Much more needs to be achieved to set South Africa back on a growth path. I'm hopeful that the GNU will soon be able to successfully deliver a national budget for South Africa and work in collaboration, or in a collaborative fashion rather, to critical policy matters. This policy certainty and the continued commitment to good governance within the state-owned enterprises are critical steps to growth. Without a consistent electricity supply and more effective rail and freight logistics, we will not attract foreign investment in South Africa, and many opportunities will go begging, substantial ones. In this post-election world, I'm sure that we can redouble our efforts and work closely with government and regulators to reinvigorate our local markets to enable the growth and development that is so desperately needed in our country. So that is really the macro picture. Turning now to the JSE's business. Our role as the board is to ensure that management strategies are sound and are well executed, with the appropriate focus on business processes that enhance our resilience as an operator of financial markets in South Africa. We also challenge management to ensure that the business is well positioned for growth. Technology will be a key enabler in our revenue diversification drive. This includes expanding our co-location services and broader infrastructure as a service offering, while exploring newer cloud-enabled services. Cloud adoption is accelerating across global markets, with many large exchanges forging partnerships with top-tier cloud providers. For the JSE, the cloud offers significant benefits, including improved data accessibility, scalability, cost effectiveness, and robust security protocols. It also poses new challenges, such as increased dependence on service providers for continuous services and support. Our multi-year technology strategy aims to modernize our technology estate, better meet clients' existing and emerging needs, unlock revenue sources, and add operational efficiencies. In 2024, the board spent an inordinate amount of time interrogating the technology strategy and associated investment. And I'm confident that our technology strategy is well on track. Let me turn now to governance matters or matters of governance. The JSE has a formal, transparent process for appointing board members. The Group Nominations and Governance Committee, of which I chair, is responsible for overseeing a dynamic board renewal process. The composition of the board is shaped by a holistic policy on diversity to ensure that an appropriate balance of skills, experience, and field of knowledge is represented on the board, whilst also taking into account race, gender, age, and ensuring diversity of cultures and background. The diversity enhances the quality of the board and its ability to objectively and effectively discharge its governance role and corporate responsibilities. Board members have the skills, competencies, field of knowledge, and very wide-ranging business experience to respond effectively to the changing regulatory, technological, and most importantly, the competitive landscape faced by the JSE. As I said earlier, today's AGM will bid farewell to Dr. Suresh Khanna, who has completed his full 9-year tenure as an independent non-executive director. He is one of South Africa's most prominent chartered accountants and a key contributor to the theory and practice of corporate governance and accountability. Serving as a trustee of the IFRS Foundation and having chaired the King Committee on Corporate Governance. Distinguished career indeed, Suresh. We thank Suresh for a sterling contribution, insights, and guidance as our lead independent director and as chairman of the Group Audit and Group Sustainability Committees, as well as for his work on several of our other board committees. I'm grateful for his support and wise counsel. Humility and great temperament, I should add that. As part of a planned process of succession and continuity, the board appointed Mr. Vendre Brewer and Mr. Thabo Leo as independent non-executive directors during 2024. They both have experience in areas highly relevant to the JSE's present strategic journey, namely financial services, strategy development, mergers and acquisitions, corporate finance, investment advisory, and ESG. They've also served on and chaired the boards of several JSE listed companies, and we very much look forward to your contribution in the years ahead. Several leadership appointments take effect following Suresh's retirement from the board. Ms. Zarina Bassa is being proposed to shareholders as the new chairman of the Group Audit Committee. She has served on the JSE board and the Audit Committee since 2018 and has extensive experience leading audit and risk committees at some of South Africa's largest companies. Mashubon Clary is being proposed to shareholders as the new chairman of the Group Sustainability Committee. She has served on the JSE board and the Sustainability Committee since 2020 and is a respected expert and practitioner in the field of ESG and sustainability. This is the first year that appointments to the Group Sustainability Committee are being put to the shareholder vote. This is very much in accordance with the amended provisions of the Companies Act. Finally, Mr. Ben Kruger assumes the role of the lead independent director. Ben is a deeply experienced former executive and board member and has served on the JSE board since 2018. I ask shareholders to join me in wishing these directors well in their new leadership roles. Of course, in any organization, it is primarily the executives and staff that shape its success through their passion, energy, and efforts. I would like to take this opportunity in that context to thank Leila and her executive team for their dedication and passion and effort in progressing our strategic agenda despite an evolving and constrained operating environment, sometimes really, really challenging. So thank you for your gallant efforts in that respect. I'm grateful to my fellow directors for ably supporting the JSE's executives management team this year. As an FMI, we can complete only a few projects without the extensive and external input, which we very much require. So I would also like to thank many stakeholders, including clients and regulators, for their collaboration and open communication on our many multi-year transformative projects. So thank you very much for that. So moving forward, I'd like to conclude some of these brief remarks on the administrative formalities of this AGM, beginning firstly with the etiquette for the meeting. There are 4 ways to ask questions during this meeting. For shareholders and guests present here today at the JSE, please raise your hands and I'll call on you to address the meeting. For the online participants, please click the right or raise your hand icon. Once you've been identified by our convener, your microphone will be unmuted. You'll be speaking to yourself up until then if you try to jump the queue. And you'll be able to ask questions and engage with online participants and with us here at the JSE. Online participants may also wish to submit questions or comments via the chat box using the Q&A icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Please type your name, your organization, and question, and then click send. Your question will be published and answered during the course of the meeting. Finally, you also have a 4th alternative where you can email your questions to our investor relations team at JSE Group AGM at jse.co.za. So once more, a word of thanks to those of you who have already engaged with us in the lead up to this meeting. Please note that only shareholders reflected in the share register and in possession of the necessary letter of representation or a person holding a valid proxy, which has been filed as required, are entitled to vote at this meeting. The notice convening the AGM, including the agenda, was posted to shareholders on the 28th of March, 2025, in compliance with the prescribed period for a notice of meeting. We also provide a free service to shareholders of JSE Limited. All company communications, including the AGM materials, are available on ShareHub, our electronic portal. If you haven't yet registered, you can access ShareHub at www.sharehub.coza. I propose that the notice of the AGM and the agenda be taken as read. Shareholders presented here today may wish to propose additional items for inclusion on the agenda. If so, please raise your hand and address the meeting if you'd like to do that. Namely, to propose additional items. Okay, thanks for keeping our meeting orderly. Thank you. Scrutineers, the JSE has appointed the meeting specialists, Property Pty Ltd, and specifically Mr. Izzy van Schoor as the scrutineer to manage the poll and ensure all votes are correctly recorded. Our external auditors, Ernst & Young, are also in attendance to exercise oversight. So no election results will be contested here. We then go on to item 2, agenda item 2. And that's the presentation of financial statements and reports. The required documentation for this meeting has been in your hands for some time now. This includes the audited consolidated annual financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2024, including the director's report, our group audit committee's report, and the independent auditor's report. We also have our integrated annual report for the 2024 financial year. And then we have supporting reports to our integrated report, being the governance and remuneration report for the year ended December 2024, the sustainability report for 2024, and the regulatory reports for 2024. These reports are comprehensive and address the various activities of the group for the year 2024. I hereby present these reports to the meeting and will take those reports as read. These reports are non-voting items, except for the remuneration report, which is subject to 2 advisory votes later in the meeting. So that was agenda item 2. Moving on to agenda item 3. This is the business update by the Group CEO, Leila, and then an open format Q&A. Leila will provide a brief update on the business and will then move into an open Q&A session. Shareholders and guests and those of online not here with us will be able to ask questions relating to our business and strategies, and of course, the AGM resolutions. So I think with that, I would like to conclude my section for the moment and hand over to Leila. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Phuthuma, and good morning to all shareholders and guests. I'd like to offer a few comments about the JSE's performance, our strategic vision, market trends, before we open the floor to questions. I'm very pleased to see many familiar faces in the room today, and thank you to those joining us online. Thank you for your time and your continued interest in the JSE. We started the year announcing a strong set of results for 2024 financial year, despite a challenging macroeconomic backdrop marked by global volatility, cautious investor sentiment, and of course, shifting capital flows. As you all heard a few months ago, net profit after tax increased by 10.4% to 918 million, and ROE rose to 20.2%, up from 19.4% in the prior year. Non-trading revenue increased to 1.2 billion, and it now contributes 37.8% of operating income, up from 29% in 2019. This represents a very important progress in our revenue diversification efforts, and it translates into improved quality of earnings. Our share price has increased in excess of 40% year on year and just over 7% year to date. We executed a share buyback in June in 2024 as part of our program to return surplus capital to shareholders. We remain committed to allocating capital in a disciplined manner, and we'll continue to utilize a combination of dividends and buybacks in the future. As a licensed financial markets infrastructure, we aim to operate markets that are resilient, robust, and efficient. In 2025, year to date, our overall availability has been 99.91% year to date, above our long run average. And it's reflecting world-class operational resilience, even amidst significant market volatility. From a strategic and execution and innovation perspective, our multi-year strategy to create a modern, diversified financial market infrastructure business continues to gain traction. We are making progress on all fronts: technology, regulatory reform, market growth, and sustainability. We're progressing the BDA modernization project on time and within budget. Transitioning the BDA platform to the cloud is key to ensuring that our core market infrastructure proposition remains competitive and meets the demands and needs of our customers. The segmentation of our main board into the prime and the general segments was implemented to align regulation with issuer size and liquidity, fit for purpose regulation. So far, 27 listed entities have transferred to the new general segment. Turning now to market performance in 2025, this has been shaped by many complex drivers, but two main factors stand out. First, the impact of President Trump's new trade tariffs, and second, the delays in the finalization of the South African national budget. Investor sentiment remains fragile despite a 90-day pause on the imposition of additional tariffs. Global conditions are dominating, and it's difficult to anticipate the outlook. Domestically, it's crucial that the GNU and Parliament finalize a budget that will ensure fiscal discipline and retain the confidence of the markets. Hypervolatile and event-driven markets have translated into increased trading activity in all but one of our markets. In fact, most of the markets are up double digits year to date in their specific drivers. For example, the equity market value traded has increased 34% year to date, and our year to date equity derivatives traded has increased by 19% year on year. Meanwhile, the overall market cap of all JSE listed companies grew by 10% year on year to 21 trillion rand. And this really is in line with a slight revaluation of JSE listed entities. Our top 40 index, when we compare ourselves to international benchmarks, our top 40 index has delivered a return year to date as at close of business yesterday of 13%, comparing favorably to pretty much all headline indices globally. The MSCI Emerging Market EM 100 index returned a 7.6% return year to date, and the NASDAQ Composite, looking much better than it did last week, is now still 1.6% down year to date. Added to this, the weighting of South Africa in the FTSE Emerging Market Index is a crucial driver of flows. And this increased from the FTSE Emerging Market Index weighting increased from 3.16% at the end of last year to 3.49% in 2025. Now, we all know that the index rebalancing is coming up, and of course, South Africa the stats are available, and South Africa will be slightly reducing in the weightings, although no companies are falling out of that index. In 2025, we continue to execute on our strategy to position the JSE as a modern, diversified exchange that delivers shareholder value while safeguarding market integrity. We continue to modernize our systems, including BDA, and ensure operational resilience and excellent customer service. Investing in market infrastructure remains a top priority. As you have no doubt heard, the rollout of our Colo 2.0 secondary solution, the JSE Fix Hub, and also the JSE Network Alliance will strengthen our trading ecosystem and reduce costs to brokers while improving market connectivity and accessibility. This will also contribute to our diversification of our revenue. Meanwhile, the collaboration with the AWS outposts in the local zone will enable greater cloud integration and enhanced processing efficiency. You would no doubt have seen the exciting new chapter that we announced recently regarding our modernization journey through the collaboration with NASDAQ in partnership with Amazon Web Services on a new cloud-based infrastructure. We remain focused on accelerating the growth of our non-trading revenue, and we will continue to evaluate opportunities for M&A to scale high impact opportunities and capabilities. Our 2025 guidance, as we shared during our results roadshow, is anticipates an operating expenditure growth of between 5% and 7% and CapEx of 190 to 215 million rands. So through these initiatives, we are aiming to entrench the JSE's position as a trusted, transparent, and forward-looking exchange that supports South Africa's development, and also one that offers world-class services to domestic, international clients. The JSE remains an essential institution in South Africa's capital markets. And as we continue to modernize and expand our offerings, we do so with firm commitment, transparency, and innovation in value creation. I want to thank our employees for their dedication, our shareholders for their trust, and our board for its guidance, and also our clients and regulators and partners for their continued collaboration. Earlier in his opening remarks, our chairman paid tribute to Suresh Khanna, who is our lead independent director and retires from the board today at this AGM. And on behalf of the executive, Suresh, I want to thank you for your outstanding contribution to the JSE over the last decade. We are deeply grateful for your wise counsel, your deep experience, your judgment, and of course, your humility. We wish you very well in the chapter that lies ahead. And with that, I'll return the microphone to the chairman.
Thank you, Leila, for that comprehensive report. We should now go to the questions section. So we'll start with the people that are in the room. If you could please be kind enough to give us your name and your organization before you ask the question. Thank you. Microphone. Yeah, thanks.
Morning, everybody. My name's Howard Lowenthal. I represent Premier Merchant. We're shareholders in the JSE. First of all, I'd like to compliment the JSE, particularly the investor services, who have been of great help to me during this past year with an issue that I have with one of the listed companies. So thank you for that. Excellent set of results. Nobody can complain about those. I only have one nagging question, which is the same one I have every year, together, I think, with my brother who's watching in Boston this morning, is that with the ever shrinking number of equities on our market, and if you notice, you bought 55 million shares back during the year, and you got a 23% or nearly 24% return on it, the best investment this company can make is to rebuy its shares. You've also generated additional cash. You've got an additional 1.3 billion in cash. You only need 10% of that for your capex this year, as you've just pointed out, around about, if I remember correctly, 130 or 140 million. Was it 200 million? With the amount of money being generated as a result of the rising equity churn and turnover, once again, having spent only 60 million rand on share buybacks, it would seem that it would be appropriate to continue doing that. And I'm appealing to this board once again. We don't need the JSE to invest our money in bonds. We need the JSE to invest in the JSE. And if that means buying back our shares because of the shrinking number of equities, so be it. I don't know who's going to answer on share buyback policy for the coming year.
Yeah, Howard, I think before I hand over to Leila, I'd say, I guess you'll give us a little bit of credit that at least now we're talking the quantum as opposed to the act, right? Something was done. You may say, well, it shouldn't have been 50, it should have been 500.
Why did it stop? I'm curious.
Well, I guess, you got to judge the market, close periods, where share price is, and so on. So we've tried to exercise the prudence and wisdom of Solomon here, but you can't always get it right. But I'm going to let the CEO respond. Yeah.
Thanks, Howard, and thank you for your comments. And we always appreciate having all of our shareholders sharing their views. And we know that share buybacks have been a top comment and topic. We took the decision, I think maybe before we get to that, our capital allocation is determined by a number of factors. We obviously, we hold 800 million rand in regulatory capital and 1.3 in our various investor protection funds. The cash available on our balance sheet is used for working capital requirements, capex, paying our dividend, and various other operational expenses during the year. From time to time, we review this, and we always we have a history of returning unused capital back to the market, and we will continue to do so. And our share buyback should be seen as a high conviction by management in the growth of the company through those elements, those controllables, those elements that we can control. And we will continue to contemplate and look at share buybacks during the market and take into account our operating expenses and our capital requirements through the year. But we take your point.
More than adequate to cover a gentle prolonged buyback. 10,000-20,000 shares a day is easily covered by the revenue that's generated each month. So there should be no hesitation because the cash is being generated anyway.
We take your point, and of course, the cash that we have on our balance sheet, as I said earlier, is required for multiple different items, including potential M&A considerations. Now, on the bond, the point that you raised earlier, the regulatory capital that we have on our balance sheet is not available for use. And the only bond investments that we do are in that regulatory capital. And those have yielded a reasonable and improved uplift in yield. And we are taking a measured and very conservative approach to that. And the idea there is really, A, to diversify our revenue between money market and bond market, and secondly, just to enjoy a slight uptick. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Shall we take two more questions on the floor and then we'll go online? We're not saying you should ask the question under duress. We're just giving you the opportunity to raise your hand to ask the question. Okay. Shy audience this morning. Let's go online. Yeah.
Chairman, we have 5 questions online from Mahluli Mkube from ESG Insight SA.
Mhm.
Can I read all 5 out, or would you like to?
Let's do 2 at a time.
Sure. So the first one is director appointments and elections. The recent board skills audit identified gaps in technology, human resources, and securities trading. What concrete steps are being taken to address these gaps in upcoming appointments, and how will the progress be monitored and reported to shareholders to ensure strategic board capability is maintained? Question 2, remuneration policy and implementation. Given the JSE stated commitment to sustainability and net zero by 2025, why do ESG metrics still carry limited weighting in the long-term incentive scheme? Will REMCO commit to integrating the measurable ESG and climate transition targets into extensive KPIs to align remuneration with long-term sustainability outcomes? Thank you.
Okay. I think on the first question, I'm going to ask Suresh just to talk about how we have structured ourselves to try and cover the competence on technology. Then after Suresh, I'm going to ask Faith to respond to your question on remuneration and how those KPIs are set. Okay? Thanks.
Thank you very much. And I think it's a very important question as Leila and as Phuthuma and Chairman has mentioned that, technology is the heart of the business. If we get that wrong, I mean, we're just going to struggle as a business. So it's one of the things we've done to augment the skills of the board is we've appointed an expert committee, an expert panel that helps us on technology matters, gives us the lay of the land, how things are working globally, what are the latest areas to look at. And that input all goes into the determination of our overall strategy in terms of how we plan into the future. So I think that technology committee is really competent people, and maybe I can ask Tabalo just to name names, but we are very comfortable with the people that are providing us with advice. It's wide range, local, international players that are advising us in the space. So I think the board is getting the right level of input in terms of technology matters.
Okay. Faith?
Good morning. Thank you very much for the questions on the ESG weight on our LTI incentives. Basically, I think just before I answer that question, it's important just to provide some context on our sustainability strategy, which basically, is embedded on us considering both the global trends and the South African context. So for us as the JSE, we focusing on 4 sustainability commitments, just high level. The first one just relates to how we guide our markets on the importance of ESG and sustainability. The second one looks at how we behave as the JSE and consider sustainability across our value chain as an exchange in South Africa. Fourthly, we look at the tools and services that provide responsible investing for the market. And then lastly, how we use our central role as a connector to facilitate engagement and advocacy in relation to sustainability. So based on this strategy that we have on ESG, currently ESG represents 10% of our long-term incentives scorecard. And I guess under ESG, we looking at ESG products, clients, staff, and as well as listing reforms. But I think what we have done as a company also is to publish our net zero commitment milestones. And this year we've determined, the baseline benchmarking, target setting and reduction initiatives. Once we've got, those matrix embedded, we will then consider enhancing the ESG matrix. But I think it's more to sort of like say, currently, our ESG weight is at 10%. We think that it's appropriate, but we definitely will look at enhancing the targets once, we have, once the baseline and benchmarking that we have done, has been completed. I think one of the other areas that we are looking at doing just under ESG is to implement an ESG data management platform, for example, so that we can effectively, track ESG data for the company. So yeah, so I think just to give you an idea that, we've started the process, but, there are a few other things that we want to do. And those activities will then help us to enhance the disclosure of some of our, specifically around our carbon footprint and climate, which again, as a JSE is not significant, but I think it's important for us just to make sure that, we do disclose those and measure ourselves appropriately. Chair, I hope that answers the question.
Thanks very much, Faith, on that. Can we have the next two questions?
Sure. We've got
Maybe you can make all three, then then we're done with online and we can come to the box. Yeah.
so number 3 from Mkhululi from ESG Insight, remuneration policy and implementation. Despite previous shareholder concerns, the Group Remuneration Committee still retains significant discretion in allocating executive bonuses, citing overall quality of corporate performance without clearly defined metrics. How does the JSE intend to improve transparency and objectivity in bonus determinations? And will shareholders be granted greater visibility into the qualitative assessments that drive these payouts? Question 4, greenwashing risks on the JSE. Greenwashing risks grow globally. What mechanisms is the JSE implementing to vet, audit, and assure ESG labeled instruments like green bonds and sustainability linked loans listed or pending listings on the JSE? And question 5, social impact. What measurable progress has the JSE made in supporting capital access for Black-owned, women-led, and township-based SMEs via new listing pathways, incentives, or market education since last year's AGM? Thank you.
No, thank you very much. So I think on the REMCO question, Faith is going to take center stage again on that. Greenwashing, I'd like the CEO to respond to that. And I think you can also talk about, Leila, the last question, which is really what are we doing to try and bring in different segments of society into the capital markets. Yeah. So you take the last two, and then we'll move back. Okay.
Thank you again for the question. I mean, I think in terms of, the REMCO's approach to short-term remuneration, we are guided by the corporate scorecard, which is balanced scorecard, basically, which has got both the financial and non-financial matrix. Just to be, sort of like specific. So for 2024, our scorecard was 50% financial matrix and 50% non-financial matrix. And those matrix are basically set at the beginning of the financial year, and the various subcommittees of the board, approve those matrix. Maybe just on the financial matrix, the key matrix that we measure, it's the ROE, the HEPS, as well as the leverage. And then on the non-financial matrix, we've got the operational resilience of the business, as well as the social matrix or ESG. So basically based on then the performance of the business, which this year overall, the 75% of the scorecard was attained, or on target objectives were attained, and 49% was above, the business achieved above target objectives. So based on those very, rational performance, then the REMCO determined what the bonus pool would be. So, and I think, over the last few years, we really have been enhancing our, scorecard, and just to make sure that, there's not too much discretion that, that REMCO exercises, that, the bonus pool is determined by a rational, quantifiable, performance targets across the pillars that I have mentioned, and that, the assessment is done by the relevant board committees, which then detail the feedback to REMCO, which then, inform the REMCO's deliberation on the quality of performance of the company. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Faith, for showing our impeccable criteria and rationality in arriving at these scores. It's not arbitrary. So thank you very much. Leila, let's talk
Thank
about
you.
greenwashing. Yeah.
Thank you, Putuma. And so on the sustainability segment, bonds like green bonds and sustainable bonds are subject to independent secondary party opinions, or SPOs. And this is like a separate audit on these bonds, both at the time of listing and during the life of the bond. Our issuer regulation team, Andre and his team, evaluate these reports, and they ensure that there is adherence to both JSE listings requirements and international standards. If I move maybe, Chair, if I may, onto the question on SMEs. From an SME perspective, we have marginalized groups. We have a strong commitment to inclusive growth in the country, and we run a number of different programs. We have an accelerator program, which is designed in partnership with a specialist in this field to equip and to upskill SMEs. Many of those SMEs are female-led. We also have a funding readiness training program, which we run, and that's had great success. And more recently, we've worked with local government to create funding matchmaking roadshows. And we've done national roadshows in, for example, the Western Cape, the Eastern Cape, and Limpopo. And we are planning to introduce something in Gauteng. And then, of course, also our JSE private placements initiative it creates the opportunity for a number of small and medium enterprises, some of which are run by Black females. And that gives them a platform and the opportunity to access our many investors that have signed up. So you can see that there is a multi-pronged approach. We also, from an investor perspective, run a very successful She Invests conference, where we create opportunities for financial literacy and enhancing understanding of the financial markets. I'll hand back to you, Chair.
Okay. Well, thank you, Leila. I mean, as you say, concerted effort there. But it's work in progress, right?
Yep.
We continue to try to bring them that segment of society. I'm sure. Standing invitation, Howard. I presume we're done with the text now.
Chair, there are no hands up or no further questions online. Asaf, please confirm.
That's correct, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. You know, let somebody leave here and say we deprive them of an opportunity. We'll give you the last opportunity to ask a question on this floor. If not, we're very happy to move on. Okay, well, thank you very much. I think it's been fair. So we move on to item 4 of the agenda, which is the AGM resolutions. I'm pleased to present and propose the various AGM resolutions as contained in the notice of meeting. A list of these resolutions, that's ordinary and special resolutions, are now being displayed on the screen. Please note that in terms of the JSE's Memorandum of Incorporation, resolutions of this meeting will be voted by means of an electronic poll rather than by a show of hands. I confirm that all AGM resolutions have been proposed to shareholders and invite you now to submit your votes via the online voting platform if you haven't already done so. Please click on the Vote Now link and it will direct you to the voting platform. Please also remember that the platform reflects all votes as automatically defaulted to abstain. Please select, you have to select for or against or abstain for each resolution. Check your selections carefully as they cannot be retracted or revoted once submitted. You will forever hold your peace after that. Once you have made your selection for each resolution, scroll down to the bottom of the page and click Submit. A message will pop up on your screen confirming that your votes have been received. So we will, I guess, pause a little bit to allow the scrutineers to confirm that all shareholders currently reflected as active on the voting platform have actually submitted their votes.
Thank you, Chair. One final moment while we close the voting and display results.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. The voting is now closed. You may proceed.
Let's display the votes. Outcome on the screen, please. Thank you. I hereby confirm to the meeting that all the resolutions have been carried by the requisite majorities. No consults. And we thank you for your support for that. In terms of the JSE listings requirements, section 3.91, the detailed results of this meeting will be disclosed on SENS within 2 business days of the AGM. And with that, I think that brings us to the conclusion of the AGM. All good things come to an end at some point. Thank you to the shareholders in person that made it today, and of course, all of those that are online. And I trust that this AGM has provided you with a meaningful opportunity to engage, which I afforded you endlessly, to engage with the board and the executives. In my view, it seems that the hybrid format is the new de facto standard for AGMs. This format provides the transparency, opportunity for engagement, and most importantly, the accessibility that are, the hallmarks of good governance. So thank you very much and have a great afternoon. Thanks.
Thank you.
We're done.